Yes, good morning, everybody. So I suppose you can hear me.
Morning, ma'am.
Yes, right. So let's start the class. We have yet to continue with the chapter, which is population and settlement geography. We are still in paper one. There are 2-3 things in paper one that we are yet to take. That is, there is this concept of over, under, and optimum population. Have you seen that word? Concepts of over, under, and optimum population. So that we have to take it up. Migration, we have to take it up. So that we'll do today. Concept of, take down the heading, concept over, under, and optimum population. I'll share my blank screen with you. And for some time, let me switch off the video because there can be network issues. Right. So screen, white screen, this white screen. I suppose it's being seen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Now take this down. This is the heading for today. Concepts of over, under, and optimum population. All right. So take down this heading. Now, what does this mean? Overpopulation, underpopulation, and optimum population. There is something that is, നമ്മൾ നേരത്തെ പഠിപ്പിച്ച തിയറീസ് ഒക്കെ Malthusian theory ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു, പിന്നെ Marxian theory, Marxist theory was there. After that, we read about DTR theory also, the demographic transition theory of whom? Frank Notestein and Thompson. Notestein and Thompson, we read about them. Right. Over, under, and optimum population. This is what you should be writing as a part of your conclusion. Say, let us say, നമ്മൾ DTR theory നെ കുറിച്ച് ചോദിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ, at the end of it, you should be making a statement. Follow me very carefully. At the end of Marxian theory, Malthusian theory, or DTR theory, you can take this as a part of your conclusion, telling that we should be striving for the concept of optimum population, something like that. I'll come to that later. So first of all, let's deal about what is overpopulation. When do you call a city or a country to be overpopulated? So let's say that when, let's say you have 100 chocolates. Let's say that, just a second. Let's say that you have 100 chocolates, and you have 1,000 children. You have 100 chocolates and you have 1,000 children. How can you share this chocolate with 1,000 children? It's not possible, right? It's not possible. So this is a situation of overpopulation, when the resources is far, far lesser than the population. What is it? When the resources that is available in the country, when it is far, far lesser than the population, we call the condition as overpopulation. Underpopulation, what is underpopulation? There are too many resources. 100 chocolates are there, but only 10 children are there. So this is underpopulation. This is underpopulation. Each child gets 10 chocolates. Yes, that's too many resources. That is too many resources when too much of resources is available in a country with too few population. Example, maybe you can quote the case of USA. USA is a country which has too much of population, which has too much of resources, but it has less population. So that is a case of underpopulation. Optimum population. Now, this is the concept that we are looking for. Optimum population is when the resource matches with the resource utilization, matches with the population, then we call the condition as optimum population. There is a graph for this. I want you guys to take down this graph in your notebook, and after that I will give you proper notes for this concept. Take down this graph. So what does this graph mean? This graph says, initially, follow me before writing any further, just follow me. This phase, let me change the color. This phase is the phase of productivity. This phase, the very first phase, is a phase of productivity. We call it as a productive phase. What is productive phase? As the population increases, let's say that you have an agricultural field. Your country, India, is having too many agricultural fields. As the population increases, agriculture involved, we can get a lot of rice. Production. So food will be available in plenty. But this theory that people can be involved in agriculture, we can increase the productivity of agriculture, it works only till some point of time. That is your phase 1, called as productive phase. Whatever amount of people that you involve in agriculture, the rate of growth of agriculture will be less. Are you getting me? Let's say that you have first of all involved 100 people in agriculture. So they produce totally 100 kgs of rice. Let's say that they are producing 100 kgs of rice. This is the first phase of productivity. Second phase, as per the second phase, that after this 100 people, after this boundary of 100 people, even if you are bringing some 150 people into agriculture, the growth rate of agriculture, the productivity of agriculture will start to fall. The productivity will start to fall, which means the growth rate of agriculture will fall. So previously, suppose let's say 100 kgs was cultivated. Right now, some 120 kgs was cultivated. എന്താ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്? ശരിക്കും calculation പ്രകാരം, like if you see 150 people, some 150 kgs of rice has to be produced. പക്ഷെ അത് അങ്ങനെ കാണത്തില്ല. More than that, when you go to stage number 3, it is a stage of negative returns. It is a stage of negative returns. Even if you include 200 people, they will still give you only 120 kgs. So this is rough example of what law of diminishing returns means. After a certain point of time, the increase in population will negatively affect the country's economy. After a certain growth of population, after this productivity phase, whatever or how much ever population that increases in a country, the resources will be depleted, the efficiency of the country will be reduced. This is the law of diminishing returns. And നമ്മുടെ optimum population ഇത് തന്നെയാണ് പറയുന്നത് that there is one certain level of population. അതിനെ വെച്ചിട്ട് if you keep on increasing the population after that, it will lead to unproductive returns. It will lead to unproductive returns or even negative returns. All right. So this curve that telling that it's productive phase, been a diminishing returns, been a negative returns, and this one line must be there in every one of your notebooks. It's pretty much important. Okay, now take down some notes. Have you taken down the graph? Can I dictate the notes? Yes. Okay. So I'll clear this up. All right. All right, I'm going to clear this graph. Okay, or I'll let it be. Okay, now just take this up. All the problems concerned with, I hope you've got the heading. Heading is concept of over, under, and optimum population. Right. All the problems concerned with population are generally associated either with overpopulation or with underpopulation. The equilibrium condition is given by the theory of optimum population as propounded by Edwin Kennan. Write this, Edwin Kennan. In his book Wealth, published in 1924, full stop. Unlike the Malthusian theory, the optimum theory does not establish relationship between population growth and food supply. Rather, it is concerned with relation between the size of the population and optimum utilization of resources. Thus, the optimum theory is more realistic than Malthusian theory. Okay, now write a small subheading, definition of optimum population. So here we are going to dictate some of the what some of the famous scientists have told about optimum population. So the first scientist name is Robbins. Robbins defines it as the population which just makes the maximum returns possible is the optimum population. This is the first number one. And then write Dalton's definition. What Dalton said. According to Dalton, optimum population is that which gives maximum income per head. Okay, so that's enough. And then take down assumptions of optimum population theory. Assumptions. And then number one. The natural resources of a country is declared at a given point of time and they change over time. What does this point mean? The natural resources of country is declared at a given point of time, but they change over time. What does this point mean? It means that at any given point, say like 2020, 2015, at any given point of time, what is the statistics of the resources? How much of iron reserves is present? How much of mineral reserves is present? Everything is statistically declared by the country, but with due exploration, it may change over time. That's what the first point means. That's what the first assumption means. Second assumption, there is no change in techniques of production. There is no change in techniques of production. Number three, the stock of capital remains constant, which means there is no drastic change of their instruments, what is capital in general? The stock of capital remains constant. What is capital? See, let's say that you are in a Maruti Suzuki car company. അവിടെ കുറേ റോബോട്ട്സും പിന്നെ മെഷീൻസ് ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കും to design the car, to design your car. That is the capital stock of Maruti Suzuki. You go to Ramco Cement. To make the cement, there will be certain instruments. That is the capital stock of Ramco Cement. So what do you mean by capital? Capital in general is an investment on machines, on instruments, which will last for a certain point of time. Now, this is a very important concept even in your economics. All right. The stock of capital remains constant. Number four, the habits and taste of people do not change. Number five, ratio of working population to total population. Ratio of working population to total population remains constant even with the growth of population. Sixth one, working hours of labor do not change. Number seven, mode of business organizations, modes of working of business organization, the modes of working of business organization are constant. What does this point mean? What was the previous mode of working of CSIP? We were working in an offline environment. Now we are working in an online environment. This will lead to consumption of more internet, more data storage, cloud connectivity, internet. They will spend a lot of money on this. But what will be reduced on the other hand? Let's say your fan, electricity bill can be reduced. So such things can be reduced. So here, as per optimum theory, mode of business organization, modes of working of the business organization is constant, right? Take down The term, so that's about the assumptions. Now go for the theory. The term optimum population may be generally defined as a density of population which with which the given resources and skills produces the maximum economic welfare or allows the highest standards of living Optimum population is not a fixed point. It keeps changing with time. And then maybe you can take down one more graph, a similar graph, but one more graph. That is something like this. Here the situation is underpopulation. This is overpopulation. And here, this is the point of optimum population. Here you can write productivity of output, and this is basically population size. All right, take down this graph also. After taking this down, have the heading as critical analysis. Okay, so here, no evidence of number one, critical analysis. And then we'll be again writing, now please do not confuse, then we'll be again writing the concepts of overpopulation, concepts of underpopulation also. Some points will be writing. Theory. If the resource utilization goes more than the size of population, it becomes underpopulated country. Resource is very less, but the population is very, very high. Resource is very less, population is very high, we call it as underpopulation. Resource is too much, but population is very less, is overpopulation. And what is optimum population? We have defined it. Now we are going for critical analysis. Number one, there is no evidence of optimum level of population in any given country. It is highly difficult to measure optimum population. Second point. Second point, it does not take into account how the population is distributed spatially, as this will affect the consumption pattern of resources. What does this point mean? See, let's say that in a big country, in a very big country, one second. In a big country, okay, somewhere in one corner of this country, the entire resources, there is a lot of resources, but in one corner of the country, the entire resources is concentrated. So what will happen? Every population belt will be around this mineral rich part of the country, whereas the other parts of this country will be scarcely populated, or it will be underpopulated, whereas this region alone will be having overpopulation. But on the whole, if someone is measuring the optimum level of population, this country may come under optimum level of population, right? So what is this theory not taking into account? This theory is not taking into account the level of or the spatial distribution of population. Previously, I gave this example also. If Pinarayi Vijayan gives too many investment to Kottayam alone, leaving behind capital city of Trivandrum, leaving behind Ernakulam, leaving behind Quilon and things like that, then what will happen? Kottayam alone will have too much of population, whereas the other parts of the state will not have population. All right, so that's another important negative point. Wait a second. Okay, now listen to this. Where did we stop? Okay. Next point, it neglects the social and institutional conditions. It neglects social and institutional conditions of the country. Next point, it does not give importance to governmental policies. It does not, next point, it does not explain about determinants of population growth. It does not explain about determinants of population growth. What is meant by determinants of population growth? Determinants of population growth. Now, what is determinants of population growth? Basically, determinants is nothing but understand your mortality rates, fertility rates, migration. What is the growth rate of your population? ഇതൊക്കെയാണ് determinants of population. ഈ theory determinants നമ്മുടെ population statistics നെ കുറിച്ച് it's not saying much. It's not saying anything about it. All right. So that, but Malthusian's theory talked about it. Marxist theory talked about it. DTR completely talks about it. DTR is the best theory which completely talks about it. So here this theory lacks this concept of discussion on determinants of population growth. Okay. Now, next heading, concept of overpopulation. Concept of overpopulation. An excess of population in an area at a given point of time in relation to the available resources and technology denotes overpopulation. When the carrying capacity of an area, what is carrying capacity? When the carrying capacity, what is carrying capacity? How much population can a particular place carry in an economical manner? In other words, very, very simply, let's say that there are from the perspective of petrol, let's talk. Let's say Kottayam has got about 10,000 liters of petrol. And let's say 10,000 liters of petrol means it can, the people in the district of Kottayam can survive for 3 days with 10,000 liters of petrol. Okay. Now, in that case, what will the people do on the 4th day? Okay. Similarly, let's say that there are 10,000 liters of water, which will be enough for the people for one day. What will the people do on the next day? So if the resource is very, very limited, that means the carrying capacity, in the matram population can be successfully surviving in a given place. That is my carrying capacity. Depending on the size of the mineral reserves, depending on the size of the economic reserves, carrying capacity of a place will differ. So the definition is when the carrying capacity of a place, take down, when the carrying capacity of a place, of an area is exceeded by its population, comma, the area is said to be overpopulated because the area has more population than what it can comfortably support. There may be two factors or causes for overpopulation. Number one, population growth exceeds the existing resource base. Number two, existing resources might have been depleted. This is basic common sense. How can there be overpopulation? Either resource deplete ചെയ്ത് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ there will be a situation when the population is much more than reserves, or if the population is, the growth rate of the population is too high that the resources cannot be supporting this growth rate. This is a basic common sense തന്നെയാണ്, these two causes, what you have written down now. Overpopulation may be of two types. Number one, absolute overpopulation. Absolute overpopulation, put a small hyphen and take this down, where the absolute limit of production has been attained, but standards of living remains low. Number two, relative overpopulation. Relative overpopulation, put a small hyphen, where present production does not support the population, but the population can be, but the production can be increased in the future times. The production can be increased in the future times. So there, it is said that, follow me, just follow me. It is said that population can be of two types. First, absolute overpopulation. എന്ത് ചെയ്താലും നമുക്ക് ഈ പോപ്പുലേഷനെ കൺട്രോൾ ചെയ്യാൻ പാടാണ്. It has far exceeded the mineral resource of the place. Number two, relative overpopulation. Provided in the future we somehow increase the manufacturing capacity of this country, we can meet the needs and the demands of the population. This can be corrected. This can be the second situation. The second one, that is the relative overpopulation, can be corrected in the future course of time. All right. Now take down the next heading. Not the next heading, just continue in this. The overpopulation, the concept of overpopulation may occur not only at national level, but also at local or regional level. China, Japan, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan are considered as overpopulated countries. Number one, example number one. Example number two, Countries like USA, Canada, France, Germany, as a whole are not overpopulated, as a whole are not overpopulated, but there may be certain pockets in the country which can be overpopulated. What do you mean by this? Some of the primate cities of the country, some of the primate cities of these countries can have too much of population. Okay, now parts of example number 3, parts of UP and Bihar in India are typical examples of regional overpopulation. Then take down the heading of underpopulation. Underpopulation occurs when the population of an area is too small for full utilization of its resources. The condition of underpopulation may also appear when just a second. When the resources of an area, are able to support a larger than existing population, without lowering the standards of living, full stop. The condition of underpopulation may be caused by high rates of mortality due to repeating epidemics, famines, wars, etc. If corona keeps coming again and again, what will happen in the world? Most of the population. So yesterday they found out that there is another new strain of virus that is coming up, right? Yesterday China declared that the Wuhan labs, they declared that another new kind of strain is coming up called as neocov. So in such case, when there is a repeated epidemic, a lot of population will die, and because of that we will also come up with the case of underpopulation. So the condition of underpopulation may also be caused by high rates of mortality due to repeating epidemics, famines and wars, etc. Such underpopulation may be controlled by improving medical facilities and thus reducing the fatality rates. Okay, example number 1, parts of Brazil, Canada, Russian Federation, Amazon River Basin are underpopulated due to low technical level And sparse is what? Sparse. Very sparse distribution of population. Okay, so that concludes your theory of optimum, overpopulation, and underpopulation. Okay, the next thing we are moving on to is, let me just, yes, like the next theory that we are moving on is about, there is one more concept here, social well-being and quality of life. In the third chapter, have you seen this? There is something called as social well-being and quality of life. So the heading that you should be giving is social well-being and quality of life. Okay, so this is a very, what do you call, very generalized topic, Anna. What is social well-being? So when we are as a human, what are the basic needs that you have? Let me switch on my video for some time. Yes. So when as a human being, what are the, I'm sorry, as a human being, what are the different types of needs that you have? You have needs like educational needs ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കും. What are the needs that you have? You have educational needs, you have needs of clothing, you have needs of money, right? Other things are, you need a proper shelter, you need a proper place to live, you need proper food to eat. So these are the basic needs of any human being, not just you, of any human being. Yes. When all these needs are properly met, when all these needs are properly satisfied, you will be happy. So that is when you will have a proper quality of life. That is when you will have a proper quality of life. So if you see your syllabus, they talk about social well-being and quality of life, right? So when you have a proper well-being in terms of the society, in terms of the society that you live in, you will have a proper quality of life. So some people will be in a very poor standard of living, maybe in a slum, maybe in a slum, maybe they might be a beggar. So in that case, their standards of living is very, very, very poor. And do you think they will be socially active human being? They will not be a socially active human being. So in general, the social well-being of a person is very much connected to his quality of life. Okay, so let's say let's do this. If we are a human being, we have to take care of the social well-being. The social well-being, as a human, we will have certain needs. As a family, we will have certain needs. What are the needs as a family? As a family, maybe you will have your mother, you will have your father with you, you will have your brothers with you, right? So as a family, what are your needs? As a family, you might need some good income sources, you will need a good shelter, you will need a good home, you might be in a rented house, you might be working to have a home of your own. ഇതൊക്കെ നമ്മൾക്ക് individual needs കാണും, നമുക്ക് family needs കാണും. At the same time, there will be also societal needs, there will be also societal needs. Let's take this down. This is a small figure that everybody has to copy anyways. So social well-being, access to access to access to basic needs and services. This is your first requirement. This is your first requirement. The second requirement is access to good education. Access to good education. The next one is community based development. The last one is rights of minorities, excluded groups, disabled, and refugees. Their rights, the excluded groups. What is the excluded groups? Maybe the tribals. Maybe the tribals. The tribals are the excluded community. Maybe from a point of view, mainland India was they are getting most of the resources, but northeast people are not getting that much of resources. Maybe the people in Ladakh are not getting that much of resources. So they all come under this category of excluded groups. Social well-being is guaranteed only if you have access to basic needs and services. Here maybe you can expand it. Maybe you can expand it by 1, 2, 3 bullet points, that we need water, food, and minimum health standards, appropriate and timely qualitative services. All right. So these 4 components comprise of social well-being. Okay. Now take down some points. Social well-being. Let me switch off the video for more clarity. Take down the first point. Social well-being is an end state. End state in Varamba, you have to write like this. It's an end state. End state in Varamba, end product. It is an end product. Social well-being is an end state in which basic human needs are met. And people are able to coexist peacefully in communities with enough opportunities for advancement of their standard of life, their standard of living, with enough opportunities for advancement of their standard of living. Social well-being is characterized by, number 1, equal access to equal access to and delivery of basic services within bracket water, food, shelter and health services. Number 2, the provision of primary and secondary education. Number 3, the return or resettlement of those displaced by violent conflicts. Number 4, community, peaceful community life, peaceful community life. Peaceful community life, full stop. All right. And I assume you guys have taken down this graph that you have drawn here. Now this is pretty much important from the point of view of social well-being. This is a flow chart. This flow chart is quite important. Okay. Okay, take this down then. Indicators of social well-being. Indicators of social well-being. Number 1, control over one's own life. There are many points, so just bullet points, just take it down quickly. Control over one's own life. Number 2, good health. Number 3, self-esteem. Number 4, economic security. Next one, access to community resources. Next one, meaningful participation in community and family life. Next one, meaningful participation in political life. Next one, absence of stress factors. Next, pleasant and secure physical environments. Next, access to education. Next, capacity to engage in lifelong learning. Capacity to engage in lifelong learning. Next, recognition and respect within community. Respect and recognition within community. Next, sense of freedom. Next, sense of love for others and towards the self. So self-love and love towards others. Next one, spiritual fulfillment. Spiritual fulfillment. Next one, how can we measure social well-being? Small side heading, measuring social well-being, or how can we measure social well-being? The Australian Center, okay, a quick information. There are many things to write today. There are many things to write today, and these are things which are not given in one single textbook. Okay, these are not things, whatever I'm dictating to you right now, this is not from one single source of textbook. Okay, because Majid Hussain, human geography, also does not have that things that clearly. So this is a combination of many textbooks. So make sure that you are taking notes properly. All right, this will be helpful even for your future attempts if you're giving. Measuring social well-being, number one, or take down the first point. The Australian Center on Quality of Life. The Australian Center on Quality of Life. Make sure that you write ACQOL, everything in caps. Australian Center on Quality of Life. ACQOL should be in caps. Has developed the Australian Utility Wellbeing Indices. Australian Wellbeing Indices. Australian Wellbeing Indices. I'll write this here. Australian Wellbeing Indices, which recognizes that there are two dimensions to well-being, that there are two dimensions to well-being. Number one, personal. Number two, personal and contextual. Right, like this. Personal and contextual. Personal and contextual. With this as a basis, we can derive certain factors to measure. With this as a basis, we can measure or we can derive certain factors to measure social well-being of any given nation. Okay. So here, write in two columns like this. Draw a table like this. On one side of the table, you write personal well-being factors, personal well-being index factors, personal well-being index factors, or PWI factors. And the other side of the column, write national well-being index factors. There will be 7 points here. I mean, 7 bullets here. There'll be 6 points to be written here. 6 here. Right. So the first one in personal well-being, this side, first one, number one, standards of living. Number two, personal health. Next one, life achievements. Next one, personal relations. Next one, personal safety. Next, community connection. Next, future security. Under national well-being, write number one, economic situation, environmental situation, social conditions of government, executive, legislative, and judiciary organs of the government. Next one, business environment. And the last one is national security. Okay, so if these factors are all right, if these 6 factors are all good, then we say the nation's well-being is very much high. If these 7 factors are very, very good, then we can conclude that the person's well-being is very much high. So this is how we will be calculating the social well-being of both individuals and of a nation. Okay, so more or less that covers your social well-being and quality of life. This is a very simple topic. Social well-being, that what is social well-being basically? If the society is good, if the person, the individual, if they are happy, if they are content with their physical as well as mental environment, then we call that as a good individual well-being and a good societal well-being. All right, so that's the concept of social well-being, and your quality of life is directly dependent on the social well-being, right? And then again, go back to the syllabus, and if you observe there, chapter number 3, population, settlement, geography, one more thing which we have not covered is population as social capital, right? Population as social capital. So there also you can take down some theory notes. Population as social capital. The heading is population as social capital. Okay. So here, what is capital? Just now I explained to you, capital means any, do not write this, just follow me. Any reserves which is long lasting, and it serves in building up the economic reserves of the country, which helps in building up the economic reserves of the country, is a capital. What is a social capital? How can the society in general, what is society? The people, right? So let me switch on my video. So in general, how can the society, just a second. Can you hear me? My computer got stuck. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but my computer is stuck. Fine. Okay. Social capital. We call that as a social capital. Now, population, how can that be used as a social capital? How can population be used as a social capital? When can a population be used as a social capital? When the population is highly educated, when the population is having good amount of reserves, natural reserves, when the population is mentally skilled, then to a job, brings back some money, then you can call him as a social capital. So how can the population be used as social capital? When the demography of a particular nation, when the population of a particular nation is equipped educationally, socially, culturally, then we can call that population as a social capital. So when a society, when a society can you hear me now? If there is any issue with the voice, just message me in the chat box. Am I audible? Yes, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think we have lost the major connection. So who's the host now? Okay, Angel is made the host. Okay, fine. Fine. Now listen to this. I presume there was no doubts with the dictation. I mean, the dictate chamber, there was no issue with the connection, no?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay, fine. So there was no problem. Okay, so I think we have lost my computer. Some issues. Fine. So where was I? Yes, we were discussing about population as a means of social capital. So let's say that we have a 21-year-old person. Okay. So when do you call him? When do you call him as a economically, or when do you call him as a social capital? When he goes to a proper work, comes back home with some money, then only his parents will be happy because he is bringing some wealth back to home, right? So social capital becomes possible only when there is a proper transfer of whatever where he has been educated. If it has been transferred to economic resource, only when then we can call him as a economic or a social capital. Let's say tomorrow Kottayam in Pala, let's say tomorrow in Pala, everybody is becoming a terrorist. Tomorrow in Pala, everybody is becoming a terrorist. What will happen to the society? The society will deteriorate. The society will degenerate. The society will degenerate in general. So that is a situation where the cultural norms of the society, where the cultural values of the society is not being followed. So when you take cases of Taliban, when you take cases of Al Qaeda, you know, there they are not behaving as a social capital. The population is not behaving in the form of a social capital. So for some society to behave as a social capital, what is the first thing? They should be educated enough and they should be culturally strong. The society should be morally and culturally having certain values attached to it. Okay, so take down some theory notes. Take down some theory notes here. The term social capital was in use from about 1890, but it came into popular use only in the late 1990s. But it came in the popular use only in the late 1990s. One person's name, L.J. Hanifan. L.J. Hanifan. L.J. is his initial, so L.J. Hanifan. Hanifan. L.J. Hanifan's 1916 article regarding local support for rural schools is one of the first occurrences of the term social capital in reference to social cohesion and personal investments in the community. Underline personal investments in the community. Hanifan later on published a book which contained a chapter called as social capital. Put social capital within double quotes. Social capital involves the effective functioning of social groups, the effective functioning of social groups through interpersonal relationships, a shared sense of identity, shared values, trust, cooperation in the society. It is a measure of value of resources, both tangible, within bracket, what is tangible resources? Basically the resources which you can touch and feel. So both tangible, within bracket, public spaces, parks, playgrounds, etc., bracket close, and intangible resources, within bracket, human capital, values, etc., bracket close. And the impact that these relationships have on the community in general. Thus, social capital is that set of social resources that people use to make a living as an individual, and how the assets are shared amongst the community members. Social capital, as defined by OECD, as defined by OECD, as defined by OECD, put a small hyphen and write this definition also. So this is the definition. So put within a double quotes. Networks together with shared norms, values and understandings that facilitate cooperation within or among groups. Within or among groups. Next one, have a side heading, population as social capital. So first point, population as a whole may not always be a social capital. Population as a whole may not always be called as a social capital. At the macro national level, at the national level, the determinant factors which decide whether a population can be called as a social capital includes, put a small hyphen and write, size of the country, diversity of its population, demographic attributes, cohesion and cooperation of the regional groups into a single unit. Cohesion and cooperation of the regional groups into a single unit. What have we written till now? Let me explain. As told you before in the introduction, always a population, എല്ലാ population നമ്മൾ ഒരു social capital എന്ന് consider ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല, അത് പാടാണ്. Why? Because what if there are some terrorist groups in a community? Then we cannot call that, okay, this is a nice social capital. No, they will bomb one country. Al-Qaeda will bomb USA. Al-Qaeda will later on got involved in Mumbai's bomb attacks. So in such cases, we cannot call terrorists they will be very friends with each other. Social capital consider they are very skilled. They know to operate the high standard bombs and things like that. They are very technically strong. They know how to bomb a country. So let's call them as a social capital. Right? So that's why it has been, we just now wrote the statement that all the people cannot be called as social capital. It depends on the size of the country, the diversity of its population. We can be called as a social capital. Why? We have Christians, we have Muslims, we have Buddhists, we have Hindus. Everybody is living together as a one single country, as a one single unit. There is cohesion. Cohesion a feeling of oneness that is between us, right? So this we can call as a single unit. So that way, in that way, we can call ourselves as a social capital. At the same time, we are very highly educated. We know how to treat other human beings. We know the importance of values and culture of a society. So we behave as a respected individual in the society. Right? So that's why we can call India as a social capital, provided that we we educate the people, we educate the youth, and so on. Now, next point, with the increase in the size and diversity of the population, sometimes the feeling of cohesiveness, Cohesiveness, cohesiveness may be destroyed. Narrow-mindedness of individuals in a society is a big hurdle. It is a big hurdle in achieving social capital status. Next point, gaps in demographic attributes like literacy rate, gender bias, occupational structure, dependency ratio, etc. inhibit. What is inhibit? Reduces, inhibits, stops, reduces, എന്തെങ്കിലും പറയാം. Inhibits the various social capitals to be strengthened. What does this point mean? Let's say that uh, the, the male community in any given district, they are not supporting the females of that particular district. There is a gender bias. ഇതൊക്കെയാണ് നമ്മൾ പറയുന്നത്, we have a gender bias. So when there is too much of gender bias, will that be good for building a social capital? No. If let's say tomorrow all the fathers in Kottayam decide that the girl children should not be pursuing higher education, is that a socially cohesive and a socially well defined society in പറയാൻ പറ്റുമോ നമുക്ക്? No, right? It's not possible. So that's why we say gender bias stops a society from being developed into a social capital. Literacy rate, Kerala has got good literacy rates, so they will engage or they will encourage everybody to pursue for higher education, which is good. So that way Kerala will have a good social capital. In that way Kerala will have an excellent social capital. So these are gaps in demographic attributes. If there is low literacy rate, there will be low social capital. If there is high gender bias, there will be high there will be high problems in creating the social capital, and so on. Okay. So then last concluding point, there are more to write, but this is a very thing, maybe you can take this as a part of your conclusion. Through micro integration of local population, and micromanagement of social reserves, the entire population can be converted into a social capital, full stop. Then benefits of population as social capital, have this as the heading: benefits of population as social capital. Number one, I will just give you hints here. Maybe you can develop this in your answer writing. Okay. I'm just giving you small hints. Just note this down. I am again repeating. ഞാൻ വെറും hints ആണ് കൊടുക്കുന്നത്. When you are writing, write one line about it. Okay. So you have to, first point is you have to link social capital and health. The first point is social capital and how it is related to health. So if you have good health, maybe you can, you have to write something more on this. If you have good health, people will be having a longevity, their mortality rates will be less, which means there will be good and healthy workforce. There will be good and healthy workforce. ഇങ്ങനെ കുറെ points നമുക്ക് എഴുതാൻ പറ്റും അല്ലേ? So those things that you have to be writing down in the benefits. So the first hint is you have to write social capital. You have to link social capital and health. Second hint is you have to link social capital. You have to write number two, social capital helps prevent crime and violence in the society. And then number three, social capital and education. Higher is the education that you give to your children, greater is the chance that you will develop a good social capital. Good educational facilities means skilled workforce. Skilled workforce means good economic development, right? Number four, social capital and environment. People will engage in sustainable development. Yes, social capital, when the people are highly knowledgeable, they will not harm the environment, and therefore they will lead to the process of sustainable development. Their water use will be minimal. They will engage in hygienic practices. Their sanitation practices will be very hygienic. So these are the points that you can add. And then next point is social capital and economic development. Of course, when there is good environment, when there is good education, when there is good health, obviously it will lead to good economic development. The next point is, the next hint that you should be writing is social capital and its effect on trade. So how much of economic development, with economic development, trading activities akka koodi kaanum. Also there will be some sort of regional integration. Suppose let's say Chennai is manufacturing too much of cars, automobile units, then what will happen? That will be sold to two parts of Kerala. If Mumbai is having good software units, maybe good startups, that will be having its effects on Bangalore. So there will be regional integration which will be achieved. That is a very important point. You can write this down. Social capital has implications on trade. It will lead to regional integration. Okay, so those points, when you expand, we will get, maybe as a conclusion, you can also write how demographic dividend can be reaped through the development of social capital. What is demographic dividend? When does a population become a demographic dividend? See, let's say that you are making some investment. Okay, some investment. So there will be some quarterly dividends, half yearly dividends that you will be getting. What is dividends? Basically the profit that you get out of the investment that you are making, right? Have you heard of the term dividends? Basically demographic dividend എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ the population, you are investing certain what do you say, some amount of education you are investing in the population, some health you are investing in the population. All that will lead to benefits in the future. Investments which a country make today on the population will lead to benefits in the future. And that is what we call it as a demographic dividend. Through this process of social capital, what can you get? You can reap the benefits of demographic dividend. Write down that also. Through social capital, we can reap the benefits of demographic dividend. Okay, so some conclusion also you write. The concept of social capital, the concept of social capital is vague, hard to measure, poorly defined, etc. Despite the debate, social capital is a concept that is attracting interest among policymakers. One reason for this is the increasing concern over marginalization in our societies. What is marginalization? Excluding the STs in the community, excluding the disadvantaged people, maybe the tribal communities, maybe the SC population. Okay, some people, they have this mentality that let's not consider the poor people. We will make policies only for the rich people. That's a very bad approach. That's a very bad approach. Now, when you consider this concept of social capital, marginalization നമ്മൾ മുഖ്യവാരം അവോയ്ഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ ഈ social capital concept we will be concentrating, because when we consider social capital, it includes everybody in the society, right? So this reason for increasing attraction towards the concept of social capital is because of this marginalization which is taking place in our society. Okay, take notes. The need of the hour, especially for developing countries like India, is the right kind of social capital, that grows and contributes towards a balanced all around development of the nation as well as its citizens, full stop. Okay, so that concludes your theory of population as social capital. All right, now there is one more portion, which is causes and consequences of migration. Causes and consequences of migration. Now this one, okay, causes and consequences of migration, we'll be taking this in, like right now. But if you observe paper number 2, chapter number 6, paper number 2, chapter number 6 also has a similar thing: migration, interregional, intra-regional, and international. So we will be taking both these topics together. Okay, we'll be taking both of them together. That is chapter number 6 of paper 2 and chapter number 3 of paper 1. So Indian perspective, we'll be reading about it. We'll also be reading about the world perspective. Okay. Again, let me repeat it. There is a lot of notes that you have to take. Lots of notes. All right. So is there any issues with whatever we have dealt till now? Anything that you have to clarify? Anything with the notes? Any issues? I don't think so. So can I go to the next topic? Migration. Yes, can I move ahead to the next topic, migration? Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, so we'll move ahead. Okay, perfect. Right. So what is migration in general? What is migration in general? Fine. What is migration in general? Migration എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ migration can be, see, I for example, I have migrated from where I have migrated from Tamil Nadu. I have migrated to Kerala. Previously, I have migrated from Tamil Nadu to Andhra Pradesh. So what are the reasons for which I migrated? I migrated for my job, right? So people essentially, they migrate from one place to another for reasons like employment reasons, maybe some other reasons also. But if you observe this, some migrations can be permanent, some migrations can be temporary, some migrations can be temporary also. Can you give me, now let me ask you, can you give me some what do you call, reasons for which people migrate? They migrate because of, give me reasons. One I said as economic reasons. What can be the other reasons? Education can be one reason. Yes. After that, medical facilities, political reasons. Yes, there can be wars in some places. There can be wars in some places. There can be some terrorist activities. Maybe the ruler of a particular place, Libyanaka, at the Syrian crisis, the Arabian crisis, was basically because of political reasons. Natural calamities. Yes, very true. Very true. Natural calamities, environmental factors, climate change, ഇതൊക്കെ same ആണ്. So natural calamities എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ, let's say when you have when you are settling in a place which has too much of floods, what will you do? Naturally, you will be moving to a higher area where there is less amount of floods. Let's say that you are in an Indonesian place. Indonesia, there is this too much uh, of flooding activities. Too much of flooding happens in Indonesia. So very recently, if you have observed, they are ready to shift the capital. How many of you know about it? They are shifting the capital from. Have you known that Indonesia, that they are shifting the capital? Yes or no? Yes. So where are they shifting? So they are shifting from Jakarta is the capital. So they are shifting to an island in the Borneo Islands. So they're shifting to Kalimantan. So that is primarily because of, so this can be, just a second. Yes. So take this down. This can be an important, maybe in the corner of your notes, write this down. Maybe this can be an important thing for your prelims or even for your mains. Or even for your mains. Just a second. Okay. Now take this down. Take this down. Indonesia, maybe in one corner. This is not related to migration. Just now I remembered this. Maybe you can take this down. Indonesia is shifting their capital from Jakarta to Kalimantan, Kalimantan, because of sea level rise, which is causing inland flooding, of inland flooding, full stop. it has been found that Jakarta is sinking. Jakarta, the capital city, is sinking, is slowly getting into the sea, is sinking because of this global warming and increasing sea level. All right. So natural calamities is a very important reason, which is very closely associated to environmental factors and climate change. Quality of life, definitely, that is also correct. Quality of life, no Rembo, they may have, suppose let's say that people in the northeast, they do not have good transportation facilities. So they will move from one place to another for in search of good medical facilities or good education. So in general, that's a better word. Quality of life may improve. They're moving from one place to another. What else? What else can you think of? Apart from this, anything else? Occupational reasons, yes. Environmental reasons, I mean, occupational reasons, very important. Employment, very important. Of course, Lakshmi, that's correct. Marriage. In fact, when we are reading about paper 2, we will be reading that women in general undertake intra-regional migration because of marriage. So these are broadly any other factors that you can think of. Marriage, yes. Employment, medical, quality of life, political. So basically these are the factors which will be driving my migration. Now understand something else. These factors of migration, whatever that you have suggested to me, can be divided into two types. It can be either pull factor or it can be a push factor. So factors of migration can be divided into two types. What is it? Pull factors and push factors. What is a pull factor? What is a push factor? Let me tell you that there is someone suggested quality of life. So that you know that from I am right now in Pala. I have a good education in Bangalore. I have a good employment job that is coming from Bangalore. I have a good standard of living because Bangalore is a comparatively better city. I have a good standard of living in Bangalore. What will I do? I will move to Bangalore. What do you call? So what's happening here? Bangalore is pulling me. Bangalore is pulling me from Pala towards Bangalore. So this we call it as a pull factor. Suppose, on the other hand, let's say that there is a continuous famine, continuous drought conditions which is present in maybe in a part of Tamil Nadu, and I'm staying there. Or maybe in Pala, there is continuous drought and famine conditions. There is too much of, what can you say, some anti-social activities which is happening in Pala. So what will happen? Naturally, I will feel that this place is not that good. Let me move to some other place. There is some war that's happening in Pala. There is some anti-social terrorist activity which is happening in Pala. So Pala is pushing me to go away from Pala to some other place. This we call it as a push factor. Something from somewhere is pulling you. At your present place, something is pushing you. Are you getting me? This is the push factors and these are the pull factors. So every place in this world will be equally operated. Follow me very, very closely. Every place in this world will have a decent amount of pull factors and they will have some push factors also. Every place will have some pull factors and push factors. But depending on which is greater, some people will be attracted towards a particular place, some people will not be attracted towards a particular place. So in everywhere, push and pull factors are operating simultaneously, and that will decide the migration patterns of any individual. Okay, this is the first introduction. The second thing is migration can be permanent or it can be temporary. My migration to Pala is a temporary phenomenon. My migration to previously Vijayawada was a temporary phenomenon. But sometimes people from, you can talk about how in Germany, Jews were killed at the hands of the Nazis, right? At the hands of the Nazis. Hitler was driving them away. So what did they do? They permanently shifted from Germany and the surrounding areas. They shifted from Germany to a country called as, tell me, to a place called as, to the present day, which country? From Germany, where did they go? Primarily, they chose two nations. Israel. They went to Israel. Yes. So Israel was built because of this movement, a permanent migration. It a permanent migration. The Jews from Germany, they migrated to Israel, which is a permanent character of migration. So migration can be permanent, migration can be temporary. Another place where the Jews moved is to US. To US. And right now, you will not believe, but most of the top economic people, they have economically very strong Jewish population in Israel, Jewish population in USA. The Jews are the very strong politically, because they have good economic conditions. They have excellent top CEOs of many companies are Jewish are basically Jews, because they are basically very intelligent. So the Jews are someone like that, and so they dictate many policies of America. In fact, they call it as Jew lobbyist. They lobby for the policy. Have you heard of this term, lobbying in polity? I remember teaching it, lobbying, LOBBYNG. Lobbying is nothing but നമുക്ക് ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടിട്ട് ഒരു പോളിസി ഉണ്ടായിരിക്കും. ആ ഒരു പോളിസിനെ ഗവൺമെന്റും അക്സെപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഒത്തിരി പ്രഷർ കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റും. ബിസിനസ് കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി, ഇങ്ങനെ മുകേഷ് അംബാനി, പിന്നെ നമ്മുടെ മറ്റ് ഒത്തിരി people, whomever it is, whomever the Ambanis, the Adani groups, what will they do? They will pressurize the government. Please, ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു പോളിസി ഉണ്ടാക്കിയാൽ നമുക്ക് നമ്മുടെ ബിസിനസ് ഒക്കെ പ്രോഫിറ്റബിൾ ആയിട്ട് കൊണ്ടുപോകാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കും. So make some business, make some good policies for us. This is lobbying. Jews have such a lobbying power in USA. Okay, so yes, so that's the second introduction. That's permanent character of migration and temporary character of migration. The third point I would like to tell you is, what is intermigration, intra-migration, international migration? First of all, international migration എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ simple തന്നെയാണ്. Most of the people from Kerala migrate to the Saudi nations, right? So this is one form of migration. This is international migration തന്നെയാണ്. This is international migration. Coming to inter-regional migration. What is inter-regional migration? If I move from Tamil Nadu to Kerala, it is an example of inter-regional migration. There is one more migration, intra-regional migration. Intra-regional migration. This is where within a state, within a political unit, maybe a state, maybe a small district also, usually we take a state. Within Kerala, if you're migrating from, let's say, if you're migrating from Idukki to Pala, that is intra-regional migration. Sometimes here is where marriage comes into picture. When you get married, mostly intra-regional migration is done by women. They move from one district to the husband's district, right? Within the same state. So this is an example of intra-regional migration. All right. So that forms your introduction. Now, I don't think there will be any doubts on this. These are the rough concepts. Now, we will be writing some part of introduction. Something that's very, very important, which we'll be doing in the next classes, laws of migration. We'll be doing laws of migration. From the examination point of view, laws of migration is very important. So take down some points. Migration may be loosely defined as relatively permanent change or temporary movement, a temporary movement of the people, relatively permanent change in the place of residence of population, or relatively permanent change in the place of residence of population, or a temporary change that has occurred because of the interplay between push and pull factors. There is no precise definition as to who exactly a migrant is. The concept is rather subjective, and it depends on people identifying themselves as migrants or not. Now, what have you written here? നമുക്ക് ഇത് തന്നെയാണ് മൈഗ്രേഷൻ. അതിന് പ്രോപ്പർ ആയിട്ട് ഡിഫൈൻ ചെയ്യാൻ പാടാണ്, അത് പറ്റത്തില്ല. രാദർ നമുക്ക് ഞാൻ ഒരു മൈഗ്രന്റ് ആണ് എന്ന്, if the people can identify themselves, then you can call them as migrant. Like I can say that I am a migrant. Many of the people here, maybe you might have migrated from your native place to Pala for pursuing higher education. So this will be a very short term period. So you might be going back in a couple of months, right? So this is what we call it as, if you consider yourself as a migrant, then you are a migrant. പക്ഷെ നിങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു മൂവ്മെന്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് for a very short period of time. But when you consider yourself as a migrant, then you are called as a migrant, because it is rather subjective. What is rather subjective? It depends on your own opinion. It depends on your own opinion. Usually, general commutation എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ, if you are traveling from a certain place to Pala every day, maybe 1 hour distance, maybe 2 hour distance, you cannot be called as a migrant. Okay, so general commutation, tourism, transhumans cannot be called as migrants. What is transhumans? Anybody? Your voice is breaking. It's okay. Maybe if someone wants to give it an attempt, put it in the chat box. I do not know if it's your issue or if it's my issue, but the voice is breaking. Maybe what is transhumans? Put it in the chat box. It is the seasonal movement of nomadic herders, correct? And can you give me examples? Can anybody give me examples? I remember teaching this in the GS classes. I remember teaching this in the GS class. Gaddis of Himachal Pradesh, Gujars, Bakarwals. Okay, take this down. Transhumans എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് seasonal movement of nomadic herders ആണ്. So what is seasonal movement of nomadic herders എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ? Sorry. Okay. So that is something fine. Now, see what's seasonal movement of nomadic herders. Maybe in the summertime, they will go to the hilltops. Winter time, so this movement, which is a seasonal movement, is what we call it as transhumance. അവർ എന്തിനാ ഇങ്ങനെ മൗണ്ടൻ ടോപ്പിനും വേലി സൈഡിനും എന്തിനാ ഇങ്ങനെ പോയിക്കൊണ്ട് വരുന്നത്? Probably to have, they will be pastoralist. What is pastoralist? They will be having cattle. What will cattle need? Cattle need grasses to survive. This grasses in some point of time, maybe in the summers it will be growing in the hilltops. Maybe in the winters it will be growing in the in the winters it will be growing in the hilltops, because I'm doing it in the reverse. So in regions like Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir and so on, winters the winters will be very, very cold. So it will be intensely cold when you're going to the higher altitudes, that is in the mountain tops. So we will not be finding much of grasses during the winter times at the mountain tops. So what will they do? They will come to the valley. Valley in the lower portion of the mountains. They will come there in the summers. There will be some grasses. They will ask the cattle, they will raise the cattle in those regions. When the summer these regions will be dried up. They will go back again to the mountain tops. There will be finding some grasses. These cattle will be eating those grasses. This is transhumance. All right. So ഇവരൊക്കെ transhumance ചെയ്യുന്ന ആൾക്കാരും commutation ചെയ്യുന്ന ആൾക്കാരനൊക്കെ നമുക്ക് migrants എന്ന് വിളിക്കാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. All right. So the next heading alone, you take it down. Pattern of migration. Pattern of migration. All right, this we will be doing in the next class, the next session. But let me tell you, you have to write a lot in the next class. So writing on a kudal explanation. So make sure that you come up prepared to do some writing. All right. Thank you so much. Yes, if there is any doubts, then we can take it up now. Is there anything that needs to be clarified? Okay, the next session starts by 1:30, I believe. So don't delay any further. 1:30, make sure that you come on time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.